That's not the deduction I meant.
Oh, no.
I got it.
List.
I think it's great. You have to deduce if you're doing your taxes right.
Exactly.
It's
To
more
be
like
fair,
guessing than deducing, really.
No one knows the tax code.
I hate doing taxes, but
Yeah.
deducting all the board game purchases is nice.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm one of the few people who can legitimately.
You can
Do
actually
that.
do that.
So your top 10 deductions are your most expensive games.
Correct. That's what it is.
Welcome to Dice, everybody. I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Zee Garcia.
And I'm Chris Yee.
This is a list I've been wanting to do for a while because deduction is on the rise. You know what else is on the rise? Stupid
Taxes.
Oh, now you just ruined everything because that's so true.
Sorry, everybody. Good night.
Hey, we have no state tax here. Come join us.
I know. We do have other things you might not want, but no state tax.
That's true. Anywho, I don't know where my rising is going. Listen, you want a good play mat when you're playing board games.
You do.
I'm not even going to pretend to have a segue here.
No. Well, here in Florida, it's hot, and sometimes cards melt off the table. But if you have a grip mat, play mat, they're staying put, baby.
More importantly, we just came back from one of our conventions, and we have our play mats there, and we have many of the grip mats there. So if you're looking for, you know what? If you're looking for a good grip, a good mat to take the place of a board for your board game, they have some of the best ones. In fact, take a look here.
This show is sponsored by GripMat. These custom playmats come in regular texture or with their custom grip surface, so cards, tiles, chits, and miniatures won't slide around during your games. Make setup a breeze, upgrade your play experience, or just beautify your table with a grip mat. Check out their Etsy store to see their huge selection of custom playmats for many of the best games on the market.
All right, it's coming back.
Okay, it's coming back. Thank you. So check out grip mats. All right, deduction games. So we had as always, we have a 2 or 3 hour discussion about our top 10s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We don't, but we really did talk about this one because when it comes to deduction games, the last time we did this, which was, you said it was a while ago.
It was the original trio, Sam, Z.
That long ago, wow.
So back then, there wasn't enough straight deduction games, so we included...
We have Clue, Clue the Great Museum Caper, Clue the Card Game, Clue,
Cluedo,
which
Harry
is...
Potter Clue.
Anywho...
Any clue.
Any clue? No, so listen. So we are, for this list in particular, we deducted social deduction games. Because that is, it's its own, it's an entire category at this point.
It is, yeah.
Yes, you're using deduction, but a lot of it is not even really deduction. Sometimes it's just inference or...
Blaming.
I got a bad juju vibe from Z.
Yeah. Top 10 juju games. Let's do that at some point.
So there's no social deduction, no werewolf, no blood in the clock tower, like it would be there anyway. No resistance, things like that.
Right.
Then the rest of deduction is kind of iffy. So we talked about a third category because there's a lot of games that are just logic. Figure out the missing code. Okay, that's easy. That's straight deduction.
Yep.
But what about figure out where Chris is moving on the board? Like Scotland Yard and
Hidden
games like
movement.
that. Hidden movement is deduction. So we decided to allow those on this list but only on the level of deduction in the game.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys end up with some of those in your lists?
I did.
I don't have any. That's why I ask.
I don't think I have any. Stop looking at my list.
Well, you put that in there, huh?
No.
High quality content.
No.
What about give me a yes?
No.
Give me one yes.
I have none.
Oh, Chris?
Hidden movement games. I have one. We'll cross
do?
that bridge.
I
when we
had some that were on the very short list. In fact, this was an easy list for me to make. I went up to 20.
I went up to, how many did I not put in here? About another 5.
I think another 5 that some of them are games I even like more. I didn't include them because the deduction wasn't as strong, or there was a little bit more of that kind of like player prediction rather than out-and-out deduction.
Yeah, it's a little iffy. Let's talk crossovers here. What are we expecting as far as crossovers?
Oh, real quick. before I forget, there's another category deduction, which is escape room games. I did not put any of those on my list.
Oh,
Puzzle,
or
puzzle
detective
games.
Or detective games, which I guess those are deduction because you're using clues.
Well, I did not put it on the list, but I had Detective City of Angels on my short list.
It was also on my
I
short
think that
list.
counts, but
no, it does.
there's a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
That bluffing with another player being the chisel, and it just it's like it's not a deduction game as much as it's kind of like a detective RPG almost.
Yeah.
So that one didn't make it.
I think I'm gonna have crossover with both of you, but I don't think there'll be any three ways.
I know I have some with Z. I know I have some with you.
That's what I just said.
Oh yeah, I don't know if.
I think there's going to be one
agree.
three-way crossover.
All right.
Okay.
I also want to say before we start, this is
Either this one or
absolutely one of my favorite genres. I really love this stuff.
A lot of these are very.
I
high
mean,
up on my list,
it's not
yeah.
necessarily always the best for table talk because
Yeah.
everyone's just sitting there like,
It's not fun to watch.
And there's a lot of, Z mentions this a lot, but it's very true. There's a lot of deduction games that I love, but a human error can ruin them.
Yes.
Nowadays, some games are getting around that, but still.
By removing humans.
Illustrations with AI, right? That was
Too man.
that's a real product.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Illustrations with AI.
All right, well, here we go. Let's start with number 10s.
My number 10, I don't know if either of you two guys have played, but this would be for sure on Mr. Delicio's list, I believe. This one is a game called Tiwanaku. Tiwanaku is this one is up in Peru, I believe. So you're going through this landscape, and there's two features to every space in this grid. There's both the color of the landscape underneath it, and then also within each of those landscapes, there are different crops. So the crops are smallest for number 1 and largest for number 5.
Okay.
And so the spaces can be like the green tiles. There's a square of 4 squares in a row. So they have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 crops on them. So you're basically trying to move around and predict both the type of landscape and then the type of crop that would be on it. But there's separate actions. So one of the actions is moving your people around the board to discover the landscape type. And then you're doing a separate thing to do the main deduction part is trying to figure out what crop is on. And it has adjacency rules. It's very good. People call it Minesweeper, the board game with crops.
This is one of my biggest holes. I know this one's good. Mike,
Good, go ahead.
let me
Yeah. Huh?
let me rephrase. This is one of the biggest holes on my list.
Yeah. I don't think I quite understood it from the description, but Minesweeper, the board game, sounds fun.
Yeah.
And it's a looker, too.
It's gorgeous. It has great production. It has this little dial that you, like, depending on the scenario you're playing, you put a different circle into the dial, and then you rotate it, and you move these levers, and you open a gate. And it's, like, oh, I'm predicting that this is a number 4 crop on this space. You line up the things, you open a door. It feels really
That's cool. That sounds like
classy
that
to play.
archaeologic game.
It is
a little bit
similar,
with the
yes.
wheel thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
this one Mike has told me, you've told me,
We
Joe's
need to
told
catch
me.
up on this. What do you
Yeah.
think? Some sort of show that maybe where people here catch up on games. Like some catch up,
We
like
have nothing
Palooza
of the
or
sort.
something like that.
Yeah. Darn.
That'd be good. Anyway, all right, my number 10 is a classic, the classic.
Clue.
One of the classics, not Clue. This is Sleuth. A Sleuth is
Oldest game on this list.
by far, I assume, the oldest game on this list. It is a one in which you are, in the style of Clue, trying to deduce the thing that is missing. And you are going to be asking the other players what they've got in front of them, basically, with the things they're holding. And so there's colors, gems, and arrangement of those gems. So it could be like 3 diamonds on a blue card, 1 sapphire on a green card, whatever. Very thinky game, and that goes up exponentially as you throw players into it. So
It can go to 7.
buyer beware. You play with more than 4. You're asking for it.
Actually, you could play 5, okay, because if you have these little boxes, and so I'll write Z's answer. I'll write the other 4 players in
Yeah.
each corner. Once I have 5 other players, and I played a 7-game once, and at one point, an hour and a half in, one guy just crumbled up his paper and said, "I know nothing." Which
this
I was
is
like,
a killer.
That is correct. I also know nothing.
Yeah, no, this one can be a killer, but it is a classic Six-Saxon game. One that I think if you are a fan of the genre, this is part of your schooling, okay? If you enjoy deduction games and you've never played this, put it on your assignments, list, because you should know this one.
I didn't realize I was walking away with homework, but
This
fine.
comes with homework. Play Sleuth. My number 10.
All right,
Mr.
my number
Garcia.
10 is going to be, I debated putting this on my list at all because technically these are my top 10, but I wanted to include this because of my family and kids in general. So this is a kids logic game, the only one on the list, and there's several of them, and I'm always a big fan of them. This one is Outfoxed. So Outfoxed, I think you've played Outfoxed,
This is for
right?
children.
No,
You're
I
a
haven't.
child, Tom.
It's a cooperative whodunit game, and you're trying to figure out who the criminal is, and you're moving around the board before that fox gets you, rolling dice and slowly eliminating pieces of clothing and things like that so that you can figure out who the person is. Like, they don't have...
I don't think you
Let
meant
it
to
go.
say that.
Let it go.
I'm
Let
having
it go.
a day today.
Let it go.
You're slowly-
Tom's eliminating clothing has the biggest hole. Let it go.
So anyhow,
Let it go.
great. Glad I showed up today. You're eliminating the possibility of the criminal wearing glasses or hats or things like that.
Or pants.
Other animals, you know how that works. So anyhow,
I've never played this, but it is for kids. I've heard good things, though.
yeah, it's a really good one, and it's pretty. It's game right, so you should be able to, even if it's out of print, you should be able to pick it up somewhere.
Nice.
A secondhand market. So this is the only kids one on my list, but there are other good kids logic games too.
Yeah.
I thought I'd stick one in at number 10, Outfoxed.
Nice.
My number 9 actually is also a kids deduction game, but this is one that I find, or family weight, I suppose. This one's a little more on the family side of things. This one is called Museum Suspects. This is a Phil Walker Harding one. This is one that we reviewed, maybe a year and a half ago. I like that this one does deduction in a slight twist. There's that grid of suspects on the right side. There are 8 rule cards that are just randomized. So it'll say they cannot be in a blue room, the background, or they are not an eagle, or they are not wearing they're not wearing a toque or a beanie, right? I don't know why my mind went to toque first.
What is a toque?
It's a Canadian word for beanie, I think.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I thought you just really, really mispronounced beak. You know what I mean? I don't know.
So what happens is you only have a certain number of turns. You're not going to be able to look at every rule, but based on the rules you do know, plus the behavior of the other players at the table, you're sitting there thinking like, okay, well, Z has avoided eagles from the very beginning. So you're trying to kind of...
Yeah.
Because at the end, you won't have looked at all the rules. And also, it's possible that all 16 of the suspects get eliminated by your particular mix of cards. There's also an area on the side to predict none of the above.
Okay.
Or there could
I
be
like
multiple suspects left over. So I feel like that little aspect of it elevates it a little bit for me. So even though it's a family weight one, I find it really engaging to play. And there's a little betting mechanism. It's quite good. It's quite good and accessible.
Okay, now I'm super confused because I'm seeing the comments, and took is not spelled the way I thought it was.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
It's T-O-Q-U-E. I thought it was T-O-O-K.
I thought it was T-O-U-K.
Well, we're both wrong.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, I was wrong to begin with. It's a beanie.
Anyway, all right, well, my number 9 reminds me, your description of that one reminds me a little bit of my number 9 because it has this sort of like, things are eliminated and you can, when you feel ready, finally make your move out there. There's a trick-taking game called Spy Tricks. And Spy Tricks is a 3-suited deck of cards. One single card is removed. It's not Sleuth, but, that's okay. You'll have to deduce what it looks like. You lead a card, you follow suit, and you start to see there's a paper like sheet you fold out, and every card that gets played gets placed on that grid. And so it's organized by suit in one way, the rank in another way, right? And as you play, you can put a token. You have a limited amount. You can say, well, I think it would be in this color. I think it's white, out of white, red, green, or whatever. If you're right, you get like a point or two. But if you say, I think it's a 13, you get more points for that. And if you say, I think it's a 13 white, you get mega points for that.
It's roulette.
So as the game goes on, you eliminate more possibilities. And at the end, of course, you have that moment where you're like, somebody over there across the board is like, I was holding it the whole time. You never forced me to play it. So you just never saw it.
Can you make that cover big again?
So this is one. It's called Spy Tricks. It's been reprinted with another game, something like Tokyo, like something Hotel, Murder Hotel.
What's going on in that cover?
Or something like that. There's these people, right, in the front, and they're all spies.
But why do they all look...
That one guy fell asleep spy.
The guy in the middle is clearly asleep.
He is taking a quick nap
Also, the guy
on
with
the job.
The balding guy in the front also falling asleep. I'm just amused by this.
I didn't notice Jason Alexander there. You're right.
Yeah, so... You guys have never played this?
I've not.
I don't think so.
It's an interesting little game. I'm surprised, not, especially Chris, I'm surprised you never played this.
I've not heard of it until
You're ruining
right now,
Chris's
actually.
day today. You're going to get 10 games. They'll be like, I haven't played
More
any
homework,
of these.
yeah.
More homework.
No, this is a funky little game. You should check it out. Anyway, that's my number 9.
All right, my number 9 is the second oldest game on the list.
Okay.
Since Sleuth is the oldest, this one was reprinted by a company that used to be known for reprints for their first 3 games. And this game is, the full title is Confusion, Espionage and Deception in the Cold War. Mm-hmm. Yes. So this is a game that's very similar. Think Stratego, but your pieces look like this. Each piece is lettered A to X, but they have different movement pieces put inside of them.
Weird.
And so your pieces can all move differently based on what's inside them.
Yeah.
But your opponent doesn't know. So as
Okay.
the game goes by, Chris will be like, I'm going to move C forward 2. And so I have a tracking sheet, and I'll go, well, if it moves forward 2, it cannot be these 6 pieces.
Okay.
And so I'm slowly figuring out what your pieces are, so I know, I can go next to that piece that's safe because he can't move that piece sideways.
Okay.
Except a couple times per game, you can lie. So I have to kind of figure out when you made that lying move.
Oof.
This is a game that has such a small Venn diagram. It went out of print when Stronghold reprinted this. I really liked it, and almost no one else did.
Sure, yeah.
But I think if you like deduction games, you would like this back and forth.
You have to like abstract games very much too, you know?
Sure,
what I mean?
yeah. You're playing
Yeah.
essentially a chess-type game, but you don't know how your opponent's pieces move. But I found it to be fun because, like, if you move this piece 4 spaces forward, because you're trying to move the pieces sometimes, like, you could move 4 spaces forward, but you only go 2, and then you're sitting there going, maybe it can't move forward 4, so it can't get me here. And I'm like, gotcha, sucker.
Yeah.
I like that. So,
And if you lie, can you get called out on it?
no, it's just that you're marking off.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact rules on lying. It's been a bit since I played it, but I just remember, like, someone might move a piece, and I'm like, oh, well, now that I know this piece is that, I can cross it off all the others because it's like a chart, like those logic charts.
Man.
Well, you and Josh Franklin both very much like it.
Yes. So that's Confusion and then a bunch of other things there.
Nice.
Number 8 for me is the one hidden movement game on my list. And this one, I was kind of toying around with which one I wanted to put on here. I put my favorite hidden movement game. And this one is Sniper Elite, the board game. Now, this one has a lot of other mechanisms going on. So I think if you want a more pure hidden movement kind of thing, then Clue, the Great Museum Caper, which you kind of said in jest,
Yeah.
is one of my other favorite
Really?
hidden movement games.
See, the one I would have considered to put on this list would have been the new one that Mike likes a lot,
Mind management.
Mind Management, because I feel like that one is almost complete deduction.
I think that might be the better deduction game, but
Yeah.
I just am really taken with this
Like,
one.
I love this is a great game, and I'm still amazed that it doesn't. it never really took off.
I wish it did more. Yeah, I think it's very solid. I think the maps that come in it create a lot of tension of where's the person hiding. There are a decent amount of like combat rules, which is the only reason I was debating whether to include it or not.
That must be what it is, right? You're pulling the chips from the bag.
Yeah,
but
the other players really have to try to figure out, and they have several tools at their disposal of like trying to eliminate an entire 1/3 of the board at a time, which is a huge gamble, and it takes a lot of the many hunting for the one. It takes a lot of their energy, but if they can pinpoint you to 1/3 of the map, it becomes such a tight chase immediately off the bat. There's 2 objectives that the person is working towards, so you know at some point they have to be working towards them. And so it kind of directs you in the different spots, but there's a lot of sneaking around and some cool gadgetry that you can use. Like I said, this one stands out for me as my favorite of this genre, and it still uses a good amount of deduction, so I felt great including it. It's my number 8.
It is a very moody game. That's a good one.
Yeah.
My number 8 is a very dry Euro game from a few years ago now. It's a Dirk Hen design, best known for Alhambra and games like that, but this is a game called Timbuktu. Timbuktu from Queen Games. Have you guys played this?
I've not.
Tom?
Nope. But I got to be honest, you're not selling it with this picture here.
It's old, man. This one, you have camels. Like. The camels have...
That would be a fun game to play. Show a Queen game and say, what years is from? Yes. I'd be like, it don't matter.
2024. Yeah. This one is, you have a little board in front of you, which you see at the bottom there. The camels have goods loaded on them, and they have letters. On your turn, you pick a camel, and you move it from the row it's in, basically the board it's on, to the next board. And every one of those lines, every row, has a couple of options you can go to. There's a hidden deck of cards that is robbers in the night. And some of the camels are going to be robbed. You only know some of them, and you need to deduce the information you're missing from the other player's behavior. So I know they get sort of grouped. It's like, this robber will steal from A in this line or whatever. Like it makes a grid. And you need to watch and see what they're going to steal and where, and you advance. You basically have this caravan that moves through the desert, sometimes getting pillaged. The good thing is, if you lose a lot in one of those rounds, like your camels just get decimated out of a bunch of stuff, you now have fewer things, so you can be a little less careful because your stuff is less likely to be targeted.
That's how I live my life.
That's kind of how you do it. You leave your door open so that if you get robbed, you have less to lose.
Yeah?
Anyway, if you've never played this one, it's a funky game. It's a little long for what it is kind of my one big detractor for the game. But the gameplay and the deduction in it is singular. It's sort of very different from anything else. I really like this one. It's my number 8.
John Tripp in the chat says they haven't played Timbuktu, and they haven't played the original Timbuk 1 either.
Oof.
You didn't have to repeat bad jokes. You know?
I can choose to do what I want.
This is not the Stefan Feld game that's Kathmandu. This is Timbuktu.
All right, I'm all confused. But, okay, so right now one of the new hot games that came out recently from Allplay is Things and Rings.
Things in Rings,
Yeah,
yes.
and I like that one. It was considered for this list because it is logic. But the game that's based on the pure logic, the thing I love, is Zendo. You know, the good old-fashioned Zendo here. So Zendo, and this is actually the newer version of it. It used to be just pyramids. Now it's pyramids, wedges, and rectangular prisms. And you have a rule. That rule might be as simple as a group. My Zendo group here has to have one yellow piece in. Exactly one yellow piece. That might be the rule.
That's it, yeah.
So you show a group and say, this one fits the rule. You show another group and say, this one does not fit the rule. And then everyone can either make a group and say, does this fit the rule, yes or no? Or they can guess the rule. That's it. And you would think that it's an easy game. And every time I teach this game, I'll play it at cons and I'll teach it. I would say half people at the table are like, this is amazing. I'd love to play this again. And the other half are like, kill me now.
I agree.
Because this is not for everybody. I love it.
I agree with you. I've encountered more kill me nows than not lately because I've taught it at a few things, and it's it goes over like a rock, but I love it.
It's so interesting. And one of the problems is, and this is a problem with a lot of games where they're like, how complex can you be? And you're like, not at all. Like, don't be complex.
You don't realize how hard it'll be. It's like one piece on its side. That's going to take a while for people to understand that that's the thing they're watching out for.
People do stuff like a blue triangle pointing at me.
Yeah.
Like,
it's no, you're insane.
But you can do that.
You could do that.
I can do that.
Yeah, see, Chrissy Stern. I played this with Z once. It didn't go well. Thanks, Chrissy, for the super chat.
I would like to blame the teacher there if possible. Anyway, but I do like this one. It's divisive. I think it's a classic one. It was, for a while, it was out of print. Then they brought it back in print. They sold some more, and I think it's back out of print again.
Yeah.
10 more years, Looney Lads will bring it back.
This is a fun game. This is a neat one.
All right, my number 7 is a game that kind of falls in it's in that genre of like, this is like a party game that does not feel like a party game. This one is called Decrypto. So Decrypto is
Well, I wonder if anyone would put this on their list.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I love this one so much. The first time I ever played actually was Dice Tower West, and you taught it to us.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's a weird one to teach, too, because it's a little backwardsy.
Wait, so you had a good teach from Z?
Thank you. Thanks for the super chat, Chrissy Stern.
So there's 2 teams, and each team is seeing this little display of 4 words, and you can play up to 8 rounds, and you have the same words. So I might get a card that I need to make my teammates here guess 2, 1, 3. And so I have to give you clues in that order, first, second, third, that make you guess 2, 1, 3.
Yeah.
And round after round, the other team is seeing these clues that correspond. They'll eventually
so you might say
out.
like stones, lens, meat.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I see the words, the rest of your team, so they're like 2, 1, 3. But the next clue, the other side starts putting it together.
Yeah.
When you say meat and hook, they're like, do those go together? Like, they'll start figuring it out. So if they can guess the code, right?
Yeah. And the fun of this game is trying to throw out clues that are confusing for the other team, but clear enough for your team.
That's where it's at.
I cannot tell you the number of times I've seen people in this game give out clues that not even their teammates know.
That's when it gets
They're
good.
like, I was trying to hide it from the opposing team. I'm like, you hid it from everyone.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I love that. I love it when you are so obtuse that your own team's like,
I don't know if I would call this logic, though.
The thing is that both teams are doing this at the same time, and so you're trying to deduce, you're trying to figure out what the other team is throwing out there.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah, so there's the clue giving part, which I find very fun, but then it's that the meat of the game is when the other team says 3 things, and you're like, okay, in the past, these 3 words corresponded to slot number 4. I think it means like fishing, meat and hook and gill, right? And all of a sudden they throw out the word bait. And you're like, okay, but it's It's how to not be too obvious so that the other team starts making these connections, and that for me is the deduction part of this that really stands out.
Yeah, no, that's a good pick. This might be my 11. I think I did not extrapolate deduction from this, but I think you're right. Yeah. That's a good one. That's
number 7, Decrypto.
My number 7 is sounds very similar to Decrypto because it's called Kryptos.
It's about money.
It's about Kryptos currency. Krypto is this guy, and he has some money. It's Kryptos currency. No, Kryptos is...
Wow, it's been a long... I played this once.
Kryptos, you have a hand of cards. The cards have a number and a color. There's that little board in the center, it's behind the box lid right there, and it shows you what numbers fall into which colors, right? So there's a blue line, a pink line, what have you. You organize the cards in your hand. They are facing you, and you show one to the other players, I believe, so that they see it. And there's a low to high. And you're guessing. You're sort of like going, I think this is a whatever. You also have to put in front of you take these little tiddlywinks to show how many pink, how many yellow, how many green you have. And so the players will use that information and the cards they're holding and the couple they can see to guess at your hand. If you get the first one right, they'll have to show it, and they give up the matching tiddlywink to make sure it works out. and then you may guess one more time. And that's it. You're actually making victory points. You're racing to a certain number of victory points. But I love the simplicity of this one and that feeling of, well, it could be this, but they have very few green. Or, later on you're like, they have no green, so it can't be this. I can look at the little board. I can figure things out. It's neat, and it's a fun one because it gets easier as you play. Oh. You have more information, so it makes you feel good if you're not very good at deduction games. Eventually you're like, ooh, I know what that is, and then I know what this is. And so the game rewards you, gives you like more pats on the back. If this isn't really your style of game, this is one I would recommend.
Because there's a lot, kind of like you're talking about with Zendo. It can make people feel dumb.
Yeah, it's a trap of this kind of game. But this is one I would say, well, let me show you Kryptos, and it'll go easy on you,
That's cool.
So that's my number 7.
All right, my number 7 kind of killed my number 20. My number 20 is Code 777.
7, yeah.
Which is another game. Yeah, I had to make sure I get the last 7 in there.
The last 7.
Another game reprinted by Stronghold before they stopped reprinting games. But this one also needed to be reprinted because the first version of this game is straight up the worst production of a game.
But it's
how
the
much
best
I like
spelling,
the game.
though.
What was it called?
It's
Think
called
Straight?
Think Straight, and in the middle of that is an 8.
Yeah. But it's like the tiles in it were paper tiles practically.
They were basically paper.
It's terrible. Fortunately, it was remade with a deluxe production, which was fine. But at least it's playable, and that's the Lost Code. Yes. I really like this game. I like trying to figure out stuff. I like asking people questions. In the Lost Code, other people can see what you have, you can't see. So you're kind of saying, how much can you see around the board and using that information to figure out what's in front of you. I'm a big fan of that. That's almost to a T how Code 777 works. Mm-hmm. But this one, Code 777, this one's better because Code 777 had specific questions.
Calling it code, maybe?
Yeah, code. Yeah. So Code had specific questions that you had to ask people. This one, you were asking ranges, and the smaller the range, the more points you got. It's a neat concept.
Yeah, you're kind of like betting on the range a little bit. Like, I think I have this to this, and if you just overshoot that, you'll get it, but you'll get fewer points, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
kind of like a certain camel game.
Yeah, well, but again, this one's a really good deduction game. Like I said, I'm a big fan of that. Everyone's seeing stuff, so we all don't have the same information, but answering questions, again, this is one where you got to be careful. You got to answer correctly.
Yeah.
And by Chris asking Z a question, I get info.
Yes.
And I like that a lot. So the Lost Code, my number 7.
Very nice.
Number 6, another game that Z taught me.
Code 666. That's a very different game.
Code.
No, I played that on Halloween. Ooh, Friday the 13th is coming up.
I know. In September, though, not October.
Yeah, close enough.
You're right.
It's
that
sort
might
of
be too
spooky
much.
time.
If it was a Friday the 13th in October.
But what if Friday the 13th was Halloween? That's just too much.
It's impossible, but
That's no. We're gonna write your senators, right? More deductions.
If you're
more Friday the
dyslexic, it could
13th
be
Halloween.
though, right?
That's such a dumb joke. I love it.
All right, number 6, a game that Z taught me. This one is called Shipwreck Arcana.
Yeah.
This was an early catch-up-alooza that we did, actually.
Yes.
And I was really happy with this game. This one is so cool. You have a line of tiles in your color. You draw 2 of those black tiles from the bag, and you're using one to basically give clues about the other. And there's a line of cards there that have certain rules on them. And so you can only put your information that you're giving onto one of those 3 cards. And so at that point, it is perfectly viable in this game for the other players to guess what you have, based not only on what information you gave, but also what you chose, like the fact that you didn't choose to use the other 2 cards with that particular clue.
Or the other tile.
Or the other tile.
Yeah, it's thinky. Yeah, I'd love games where a big chunk of the information is what you chose not to say or do or show.
Yeah.
That's fun. You know what I mean? It's that like the negative space. You have to use that too.
Exactly, yeah. The negative information in this is
that's
almost more telling than the positive. And in a way that I really love with this one. So it's small form factor, beautiful art, nice production.
Yeah.
But the fact that you put out a clue and other people are reaching over to your number line and be like, well, it can't be this one. Can't be this or this or this. And at some point they flip one over and you just have to like, and they go, oh no, it could be if they do this. They flip it. You know, there's so much tension in this little package. Yeah, it's fantastic.
This is an excellent game. I kind of just was like, small little game. I played it, really liked it. It's my number 11.
Oh, nice.
It's really close. I believe the Chapmans donated this to our library, so we have it in the our library now.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you enjoy your deduction games with a nice amount of discussion, because it's co-op.
It's co-op, yeah.
It's fun. This is then one you want to check out. You want to discuss.
Yeah, so if you're in chat, sometimes it says the Dice Tower. I just want to be clear, it's Mike Delicio. He says this game broke my brain. I've always thought that was odd for this one because of the group part. Like you don't have you don't have to do the heavy lifting.
You just sit there and look pretty, Mike. That's all you have to do.
Wow.
Just sit there.
This is the first cooperative one on my list, actually, I realize.
All right, what do you got?
My number 6 is the newest game on the list, as in like this week. It's Bomb Busters.
Oh,
nice.
Bomb Busters.
Bomb Busters is one in which you're cutting wires, and you are trying not to cut the wrong wires. You are deducing what other people have in front of them. Same idea, the tiles lined up in order, facing the players or whatever, and you are making sure you don't cut the wrong one. Don't cut the red wire. Cut them in, the ones you have to cut. That's kind of, we just did a review, so you can check that out. But yeah, that's kind of the idea. And if you cut too many wrong ones, then boom, you're done. It comes with a few little fun things like equipment, that if you unlock that equipment, then you get to make 2 guesses. And it's okay if one of the 2 is wrong or whatever. There's extra stuff in it. A bunch of different missions, which just means different ways to play. You can play with a time limit. You can play with a red wire. You can play with a yellow wire. Different ingredients you can choose to put in the pot and play with that, that way. But the missions are not like one time there's an answer. They're replayable.
Oh, man, I need to play more of this. I did a quick demo of it, and I'm sold that this is going to be a game I really love.
Yeah, it's really neat. This is a keeper. I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy this one. It's my number 6.
I agree. My number 6, matching wires here.
Oh, yeah?
Is also Bomb Busters.
Nice.
What if you left out?
Woohoo!
We did it. I cut that wire.
I'm telling you, though, this game has worked on so many levels with gamers, with my family, and it's just that deduction of, there's obvious things like if your first one is 1, then I know that your wire is 1, obviously.
Yeah.
If your second wire is 1, then I know your first and second wires are 1.
Because they're in order, right.
Right, I think that's, but then you go beyond that. Like if you say your 5th wire is an 8, I'm like, holy cow. The rest of his wires are all 9 or higher.
Yeah.
That's like, wow. And then I'm looking at mine, I look at everyone else's clues, and it really is groupthink that just works well. And sometimes you even do something wrong just to get some more information. It has that 66 mission thing. I don't know that you need, like, I'm very content with just the base game. But if you want, there's so much in this box. Yeah. And if someone comes to me and says, I like deduction games, this is my new, or one of my new, because this is very much a new weighted category for me.
Yeah.
I got my old ones out of the way here. There's going to be a lot of new stuff.
Sure.
Not all, but a lot.
Great artwork doesn't hurt this one either. It's
lots of way to adjust it to whatever you want. So I think it's a good answer for that. I like deduction games. Oh, yeah. You don't have to ask like hard, easy, you want pressure, you know what I mean? You can just be like Bomb Busters, and you can find your own level in it.
Right, it depends. Like there's a tutorial of 9 scenarios, and I would argue that they're, other than maybe the first one, they're pretty much full games.
Yeah.
So you can start at 1. When I played at the retreat, I started people in like 4 or something. I was like, you guys can skip these first couple. Yeah. And it's really cool. So that's our number 6s.
Yeah.
lot of newer ones are going to be on this list at this point here. My number 5 is quite new. This one is called Expressions. This is one that does not look like a deduction game. From that cover, from that title, you assume it's going to be a party game or like I read a card that says something and I make a facial reaction. Mm-hmm. It's not. I think that the cover and the name kind of undersell that this is a really thinky, good game where you have a handful of cards, and when it's your turn, you can either make a guess that someone has a certain card in their hand, or you can play a card from your hand and rotate it one of 4 different directions to give some clue. This is my highest blue card because it is a blue card. It's my lowest. I have other cards with this same number in it. And based on what you do, and once again, kind of like Shipwreck Arcana, or what you didn't tell about it, other players in their turn can be like, well, okay, you have other cards of the same number, so you probably, well, I have the purple of that number, so you probably have the yellow one and the blue one. Else, why would you tell me that? And so it starts moving. Now, every card that you play as a clue counts as negative points at the end of the game, and every card that you guess correctly is positive points, and you need to offset those.
Did you like this one, Tom?
This is my number 13.
Yeah. I saw that Mike Heller wrote there, oh, man, I bounced off this one hard. I'm a little bit with him. I didn't really love this one. Yeah.
Really?
It didn't really work for me too much.
It has a little bit of, I mean, when you first start teaching rules, people go, is this the crew? It's not. There's some similarities. I actually think there's some similarities to Bomb Busters with this one, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about this one. The only thing that's a little funky about this one is the scoring. Not because it's bad. In fact, I think the scoring is quite good, but you don't realize, you're like, we're doing so well. I'm like, no, every clue we've given is a negative point.
Sure.
And that's kind of
sneak up on you, yeah.
That's kind of a weird thing to be giving information, you lose 1 point.
Being penalized.
But you need to get that information, you will lose otherwise. And I don't mind, but you're like, we're crushing it. And then you take all the negative cards, you're like, oh, we barely won, or whatever.
Yeah, interesting. I know that it's been getting a lot of love from a lot of people. Mm-hmm. This is one of those games that it's been a slow burn, and lots of folks are sort of championing this one. So if you like this kind of thing, and again, this is a tiny box, you should check this one out. Yeah,
I love it. It's one of my favorite new ones. So there you go. My number 5, Expressions.
Sweet. My 5 is not a new one anymore. I think it's a pretty established game now for Deduction Games, and this is Crypted. Crypted, I think, is now like a modern classic, in the words of one certain sit there and look pretty Mike DeLisio, a modern classic. This is sort of...
my number 12.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like this one a lot.
This one is one of those games in which you ask for there's a monster hiding somewhere in here. We all have partial information. Near a mountain, not on water, blah, blah, blah. You put all that together, there's one correct answer, which blows my mind how they did this because it's replayable, but it's, one correct place. And on your turn, you ask the players around the table, is it here? You put a little something there. The next player says, yes, it could be, according to my clue. Okay. The next player says, yeah, sure, it could be. And then the next one says, no. Okay, got it. Then it's a no. And you mark that, you show some information, whatever. Players are slowly figuring out some things. You have to, on your turns, when you mess things up, you have to share a place where it could be. And so players start to put all your clues together, and they're like, man, he keeps playing around towers. It must be 2 from a tower or something. Really like it. It's a nice soup of interesting ideas. The one thing, it is susceptible, very susceptible to the, did I say it could be there? It can't be there. And it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start again. Because if you give one wrong clue in this, it messes it up. So you got to be careful when you play this. But other than that, man, what a fun, kind of brilliant design. I put this in the same bucket I put the Turing Machine game. The mind that comes up with this stuff, I'm just in awe of how you do this stuff.
I am, yeah.
This is one, it didn't make my list, but I kind of look at this one as the one that I think's kind of repopularized deduction design.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, my number 5, Crypted.
My number 5 is a crossover with Zee again.
Is it Crypted again? Is it like one on one again?
No, Crypted is. I just told you it was my number 12.
I know.
It's Kryptos.
This is going back in old times, and this is Sleuth.
Yes.
Sleuth is one of the most pure deduction games that exists.
Look at that guy. He knows what's up.
It's also that looks like they have like a tablecloth and they folded it up.
Yeah.
And stuck it.
The size of the checkering on his hat is as big as on his jacket. It's weird. It's a weird optical illusion.
It was a 2-piece. Like it was a buy one get one. And
they were trying when Eagle Griffin printed these. They were trying to make them look like that old 70s look to them.
Right.
But man, I tell you what, this like Zee said, the more players, the heavier it is. But even at 4 or 5, it is easily on my list the heaviest deduction game.
Yeah.
Because you are listening to every question that's asked, and you're like, okay, so Zee said that, so that means he does not have any rubies at all in his hand. Okay, good. And you're trying because you need to figure out where every card is, so you can eliminate the one that's in the middle. So I need to figure out everyone else's hands, and suddenly I'm like, I know the missing card. You say it, you look at it, you're wrong, you're out of the game.
This is one of the ones, if you have to be a note taker. Like
yes,
this is one of those.
So many
like,
notes.
If you're one of the people that likes the idea of deduction games, but you don't want to do all the very, very meticulous note taking, this ain't for you.
But it's good, but it's definitely, this is, when someone says I like deduction games, this is not the first I bring out. I'll bring out another one, and if they're like, oh, I really like that crunchiness, I'll go, oh, maybe you have enough people to play Sleuth? But I'm very cautious because, not because of analysis, I'm just worried about, hurting people's brains.
Yeah, this one doesn't play around.
Sleuth, my number 5.
My number 4 does a similar type of a thing to an earlier pick of mine, Museum Suspects. So my number 4 is a game called Spectral. This is from Bitewing Games.
I haven't played this.
Oh, and it's gorgeous. And so you are thematically exploring around this haunted house. You don't have to have the premium play mats.
Oh, you do.
It's a grid of 16 cards. Okay, according to Joey, off camera, you do need them.
Yeah, I was really confused as to why you just said what you said. Okay, let's not be telling people lies.
Okay, there's 16 cards laid out, but they are grouped in a specific way so that there's rules for each row across.
Okay.
And as you place a piece of yours out next to any of the cards, you get to look at one of the cards you placed between, and it might tell you, hey, there's a gem reflected on the opposite side of the board from here, or it might say there's a gem 3 spaces away clockwise from here. So you don't know exactly which are the gem spaces, which is what you're hunting for. But there are also other cards that as you flip them over, it says it's a curse. It'll knock out every gem adjacent, or it'll knock out if you are next to the curse, if you're touching it, you do not get to score the gems that you are placed next to.
Oh, I don't like that.
So as you're taking notes and like learning about what all the cards are, you don't have enough time in the game to see it all, and so based on other players as well.
Right. So this is a lot of induction there.
Yeah.
Where I'm watching what you do and saying, well, that must be good because you went there.
Dude, when you set this up, is there like a pattern or is it randomized?
It's both. It's patterned, randomized.
There's 4 cards in each area. You will take those 4 cards and put them in and shuffle them in an envelope. Then you shuffle the 4 envelopes. Then you pull the 4 cards out and put them in each thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty clever.
It has a really good system. This is a Ryan Courtney design, and you can tell that Ryan Courtney is a smart man by just having the rules explained.
Any of his games, frankly, but yes.
Yeah.
Is he the pipe games guy?
pipeline guy.
Yeah. I can't. My brain is...
This is my number
dumb.
14, and I love this game. I just put it lower because the deduction is a lot of guessing, and half the game is also area control, which I like too.
Yeah, you can outbid. You put a 2 strength piece there. I'm going to put 4 because that must be a good spot.
Got it.
But it kind of just, it's all based on the deduction induction, but then also you can kind of like gamble and go further into it than other players. It's brilliant. So
Interesting. Haven't played that one. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, highly recommend it. That's my number 4.
All right, my number 4 is a crossover with Tom, and this is The Lost Code.
I didn't think this would make your list. I thought the components irritated you too much.
They do, but it's still such an improvement over Think Straight. I liked that game. I kept it for about...
Think Straight?
Yeah, I had it for a bit. It hurt my soul to own that game.
Oh man,
the quality was so bad.
I wish we had a picture of it because it looks just atrocious.
Yeah, it also
It was
like
also like
graphic
Amigo,
design-
wasn't it? It was like a big company who
Yeah,
made
I
it.
think so. The graphics also were like really cut rate.
Ooh,
I don't know how else to put it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, the components in this one are kind of annoying. The game was late, blah, blah, blah. But I do enjoy the game design. This is my favorite, and Tom's favorite, I think, Leo Colovini game.
Oh.
I'm taking it off my list.
Anyway, no, I really do like this one. It's a fun one. And
It's actually not. He's half a designer of LeBlanc.
okay, that's fair.
But
That's
this is my
duty,
second
man. That's
favorite.
mostly for duty.
It
is
probably
what
is.
Anyway, the Lost Code, like Tom said, really neat stuff. Yeah, my number 4.
All right, my number 4 is a tie, actually. And, Chris, was it you? Who said Crypted brought...
Chris said that.
You said Crypted
kind of
brought...
the-
I'm going to argue that the modern gamer loves deduction games because of these games that have come out. This has brought deduction to the forefront, and that is the search for Planet X and the search for lost species.
Okay.
I think the search for Planet X kind of blew the doors off when that
Okay.
came out. People went gog over that. Now, I put them as a tie, and I also didn't put the third one in the search for
Wait, there's a third?
UAPs.
UAP.
Oh, that's in this series? I did not
It
realize
is.
that was a third one. Okay.
Mihir had it at the retreat, said it's the best of the three, but he also says that Lost Species isn't as nearly as good as X, and I disagree on that. I think they're equally as good. If I had to pick one, I'm picking Search for Planet X because I love that theme.
Yeah.
Like, woo! This one's also great because this one pretty much eliminates the player messing things up since you're using an app. That being said, it's still, both of them still use that a little bit because if I see Z putting a token on one spot, I'm like, he knows that's a good spot or something to that effect. That gives me, I can steal some information, and the Lost Species does that a little bit more. The Lost Species adds some random action cards, not random, but you can draft them and use them, but it's random on how they come up. So you might get, in my opinion, a better card than I got. But where the Lost Species is better is each species has different rules. One, Search for Planet X always has the same rules.
Sure. Okay.
I don't know that you need to own both or even the third one. I don't know. I'm going to play a third, but man, you talk about crunchy negotiation games. You write stuff down, but you will figure it out. It slowly comes into play piece by piece. If you say I'm not good at deduction games, you might not win this because other people will be faster than you, but you will still feel like you are figuring it out as time goes by.
Yeah.
So my number 4, the search for either Planet X or Lost Species.
Number 3 is the most logic forward of all of my games on this list. It has no theme. They kind of, prettied it up, but this one is Turing Machine. The idea of this is just pure logic. Hey, there's several tests. There's several things you need to figure out a 3-number sequence, and it'll give you a rule. Or if you want to play on the more difficult mode, 2 rules per number in the sequence. There is an extremely surprising amount of variability that you can do within this little box here. You can play with simple rules, and it'll tell you, like, you put out a test sequence, 1, 3, 5, and it'll say, is the second number smaller or larger than the first number? So 1, 3, 5, you're testing that, yes, the second number is larger, the 3 is larger than the 1. And it'll give you a yes or a no. You can play this with more difficult tests that'll say, like, is one of them equal to either of the other 2? And so getting a yes or a no on one of those is less obvious and less clear exactly on what it is that you're testing within that 3-number sequence. And as you go through 3, 4, 5 or 6 of those tests, like you eventually will come up with one number sequence that is correct.
My brain hurts just listening to you explain it.
You played this once,
I have, yeah. My brain hurt from listening to Chris explain it again and remind me of playing it. This is outside my. I can't handle it. I'm a dummy.
This is my number 16, but
Somebody out there. Somebody just asked. I heard him say 12, 13, 14, 15. Now 16. What's your 11 again? People are freaking out about your 11.
it was the little one.
It's the little one, folks.
No,
Go ahead, move
Little
on.
guy.
No, the little
Okay.
card game that
Yeah, the little card.
they're all have Crypted in the name. It was
Kryptos?
Shipwreck Arcana. Sorry.
There we go.
No, but this one would be higher on my list. The problem is I just don't want to play this with other people. It's kind of a race to see who gets it first, but there's almost no interaction. We're just all asking a machine questions, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you can figure out first or in fewer questions, then you win. I just like solving the puzzle. I don't care.
I
Is there
do,
an
but I
app for
also
this?
could just solve puzzles.
You can play it on Board Game Arena, and I have.
But like an app for this is almost like too obvious. Like it should be an app, but you don't have then.
But there's tons of apps that do stuff like this.
So the
I
brilliance here
suppose.
is really just kind of the fact that it works.
The physical part is kind of cool.
It's
It is really neat to put that in
astonishing.
and see it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the flip side, the follow-up to this, Archaeologic, added too much player nonsense in,
Okay.
and the device didn't work. It works, but it's not as cool, which I think is why that one did not do as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. With a game this pure and logical, I don't mind that there's not player like interaction stuff. I will play this with other people and see the excitement of like, oh, I'm almost there, and someone's like, got it, and everyone goes, oh, I was one test away. I like that, but I can't really justify that. I've said this many times, I would have this if I had like a little nook. I would have this set up permanently next to like a typewriter and like a telegraph, and it would be like my fancy nook. I would go to each morning and do like a daily quiz and play with the little cards and stuff and like solve it.
Well, I didn't know that you wanted a fancy nook.
Oh man.
Does Wendy know this? Do you want a fancy nook? It's like a birthday present, right?
Yeah,
I made you
no.
a fancy nook.
I think the internet might have found out before Wendy. Don't
How would
tell.
you know? You can't just give somebody a fancy nook.
Do you want a nook? I want a
I
nook.
want a nook. I don't want it to be a fancy nook.
I want mine to be a comfortable nook where, like, I sit down and then I don't ever want to stand up again.
Yeah. I
There's
want
a
a nook where
PlayStation.
like it looks like I'm going to be reading fine literature, but it's just Crayola and coloring books.
I think
and
it's
stuff.
like one of those books with a comic book inside it. You're opening
Yes.
of Mice and Men, but inside it's
Let's see what
Spider-Man issue 62.
Let's see what Webster has to say about this.
Flip,
Dagwood,
he
you
says.
fool!
Yes.
Wait, you went to Dagwood and Blondie? All right. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is. It's one I assume is going to be on Tom's list because he taught it to me and I know he really likes it. I think you really like it. It's a word game. It's a very little known one. It's called Hooky. And Hooky
Hooky.
here is this little game that kind of came and went. You can see that there's quite a bit of notation there, but you are basically trying to figure out letters. And you are giving, correct me if I'm wrong, you're giving word clues
Yes.
and figuring out from the information you get back which letters they have and where, like how many and what have you, right?
It's kind of like the other game I'm saying where you're figuring out what everyone else has.
Yeah.
It's almost like Sleuth. You're figuring out, it is like Sleuth.
But it's like way less punishing.
It is way less
It's much
punishing.
easier to sort of get into. I really enjoy it. It's not a looker. It's not a game that is going to win any awards for being pretty or being, again, sort of grabbing people's attention.
Are you
But I
sure?
think-
Are we talking about the same game?
Yeah. If you give it a chance, you have to like Deduction, and I think being a word game fan helps. Not necessary as it is for being, liking Deduction, but if you like both of those things and you've never played this, or maybe even haven't heard of it, you should seek this one out and give it a look because it does something very different.
And the money for it goes to help a charity in India. The designer passed away before the game was published.
Yeah.
And so all the money goes there. So, yeah, it's definitely not a looker, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, but very interesting game. That's my number 3, hooky.
I need to give this one a try. I haven't played this one.
Oh, you should. Yeah. Oh, you'll like this.
My number 3 is one that does not look good to me. I know some people really like how this game looks, but I find it to be hideous and make my eyes roll. But
Is it hooky?
no,
Oh.
it is Awkward Guests.
Ah.
Every time I look at these people, I'm like, I'm repulsed by them. But I've gotten used to them. They're my friends now. But Awkward Guests is the game Clue should have been. It really is. You are trying to figure out who killed whoever the guy is, the big fat guy in the cover.
Mr. Lucky.
It's not Mr. Body. It's not Mr. Lucky. I don't but you have to figure out. And so the way you're doing that is each time before the game starts, you build a deck of cards. You can either get one from the book or they have an app. It will say, put these cards in a deck. So you just go through these decks. And this is the one pain of the game is kind of building these decks.
Okay.
I'm like, Zee, I'll just have you read out the numbers. We need 17. We make this deck of cards, and then you get a handful of cards, and they give you clues. And you keep going. The problem is each clue that you get is often from a person, and the murderer always lies.
Oh, snap.
And so stop
I've
it.
never played this game. Why would I know that?
Because that sounded so fake.
No, I love that.
Yeah, that had like big like late night infomercial. Oh wow!
I've never played this game. That sounds really fun. I love that.
But
Do it again.
No.
I'll try to sound less fake this time. I wasn't trying.
the
to. Go
murderer
ahead.
always lies.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay. Well,
I kind
anyhow.
of believe that one more.
All right. I
Anyway,
meant the first one though.
So what you're doing, but there are a lot of clue cards that are from police and the, like the staff, and they always tell
Okay.
the truth. So sometimes you can figure it out. Like, wait a minute, this person said they never went in that room, but the housekeeper saw them in the room.
it's one of the
You
two.
know who the murderer is. That's a little obvious, but you can figure it out. You also are drawing a path through the house because they needed to have a way, and so like no one went through this room. I'm like, so I cross off all the doors in the room. So no one went through that room, which means a couple things. One, if someone said they went in that room, I have a problem. But also, each room has different weapons in. So any room that no one went into, those weapons are now off the list.
That's
Because they go through, they pick up a weapon, and they...
That's really cool stuff. I mean, I don't know why I haven't played this game. I know you've talked about it for
A long
it feels like a
time.
decade
You haven't
now,
played it either,
honestly.
right?
I have not.
Okay, so here's the thing that
What
a
is
lot of
this-
people don't like about the game.
The look.
The look.
Besides the look. There's two
Oh,
things.
snap. There's something else?
Well, all these cards that you have...
That one was fake.
you have to give to you're basically you'll say each card has a value at the top from 1 to 4, and so you say I'm going to trade away a 4 card value, and people will give you cards, and you might have a card that's a 2 and a 3, and you'll say I'll give you a 5 card value, and I will take those. We switch cards, we look at them, we do it.
Okay.
The problem is as the game progresses, I can give you cards back you've already seen.
You might gain nothing, but
And
give
then you don't
away
gain stuff. And so people, if you can really get into that, and I never do, I don't try to think too hard about, did this card come with Z? You could try to keep, you don't need all the cards to solve the case.
But it has a bit of a memory element as the game goes on, maybe.
Well, you could do that. You could be like, if you were really good at memory, you'd be like, well, Tom will never get these, he will always get the cards back. Of course, I could stop trading cards with you.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's that big
Okay.
of a deal, but I know
Yeah.
some people don't like it. But I really like this one.
Gotta try it.
It
Chris
is
and
much-
I are gonna be playing this.
It's much better than the follow-up, which was
Scandal. Oh,
Scandal. Oh!
snap!
Which that one just went too far, I think. But yeah, Awkward Guess, my number 3.
The fact that neither of you have mentioned my number 2 so far,
And I won't be mentioning it.
it makes me suspect that you won't, because this one is. I'm not trying to stretch the definition of deduction. My number 2 is The Crew, because it is a trick-taking game.
Yeah, I thought about it, but it's also a lot of trick-taking.
It's a lot of trick-taking, but it is using trick-taking as the structure for which you're trying to figure out what cards are in different players' hands, and then not only that, but also at how then to get them there. It becomes a bit of a logic puzzle, the way that I consider like Turing Machine a logic puzzle or Lost Code or one of those, where you have to like sequence these cards correctly. You have to, kind of do do the roundabout ways of getting the right cards into the right hands. I would lean more towards the first crew, I think. Search for Planet X crew for the deduction side, for the deduction part of it, right? Because the second one has more like different missions that I think are more fun and zany. But the first one, a lot more of just like the straight number play, the straight logic of how do I get you to win the blue 7 when I'm holding it, and what we've seen so far. I don't know if you have the blue 9, that type of stuff.
Yeah, I can see that. I didn't put it on my list because I consider it to be more than 50% trick taking. And don't get me wrong, I love this game.
Right.
I don't love it. That's the thing. But so I wouldn't have. But yeah, I guess so. It's a little stretchy, I think, like Tom was saying. But even if it was, I still wouldn't have put it on the list. It's interesting. I have not played the second one. I never have. But you're saying the second one feels less like a deduction game? I actually need to try the second one. You guys were talking about it the other day. How it's like you just kind of like put.
It's a lot easier together to set up and run.
I need to play that one. Give it another shot.
It has more kind of those zany missions where it's like.
I wonder if that third one will ever come out. They mentioned it, and then they kind of.
It's
on the Essen preview list.
I need to do a spit take there.
Oh snap! Run and write it down.
It's really coming out this Essen?
I think so. It's
it's called the Crew Duo,
or something.
That is the Crew. Well, that's only for 2, right?
Oh, I don't know. It's called Crew Die Family or something like that. I think it's like a Swiss Family Robinson.
The Crew cut. Okay, anyway. That's a terrible joke.
I like that one, man. Yeah.
Bop, do wop. That's a throwback to
the S Crew.
All right, what's your number 2?
My number 2? I don't know. Oh, yes, I do. It's right here. It's one that Chris said. And it is one I showed you, right? You said, I think, the Shipwreck Arcana?
Heck yeah.
I thought this might be your number 1.
Shipwreck Arcana. No, my number 1 is a different game that you'll see in a moment. I'll let you deduce what it is. No, Chris already explained it, but yeah, it's this idea of cooperating to try to figure out this little piece of information. And it feels cozy and small, and I don't dislike those qualities in this game. I like that it is very like, we're playing you can play on a little surface. It's very discussion heavy. This one gives me a good feel for a deduction game, whereas deduction games normally are very quiet, very thinky, very sort of like, it has that, they have that feeling. This one has a little bit of that, but because you're talking it out, it invites a different atmosphere. So, yeah, my number 2, Shipwreck Arcana.
All right, my number 2 is one of the newest games in this list, but I don't care. I love this game. I thought I would like it just hearing about it, and this is another cooperative one called A Message from the Stars.
Hey, yeah.
Such a fun game. It looks like a one versus many, but it's one cooperating with many, which is a fun way to do it. One person's the alien, the other people are humans, and the alien is trying to get them to guess some letters, and they draw some letters at the beginning, and each letter will have a value. The letters might have a +1 value. One letter will make things turn negative. Another letter multiply things by 2. And the alien will give you a word and say, the value of this word is 12. And I'm thinking, okay, so I guess there's 3 level 1 word things in it. Then it's multiplied twice times 2. And there's a double L in it. So I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah, right.
And they give a word back. So you go back and forth, and that's kind of one aspect of it. It would probably be too easy if that was it. But then you also have 5 words that there's like a little card with a bunch of words on it. And you need to get them to pick 5 of those words. So the clues that you give back and forth to each other should also pertain to those words.
Oh, snap. Okay. No, wait. So this is a deduction game and a let me lead you to these specific words game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have one more clue than the number of words that you have to guess. So you always have like one throwaway word. Of course, you don't know what the throwaway word is. But sometimes it's pretty easy. Like if one of the words is Inquisition and your clue was Spanish, I'm like, well, that's obvious.
Okay.
But sometimes...
You wouldn't expect it, but yeah.
I would not. It's It is so good. So good. Anyway, that's my number 2. We'll hear more about it in a bit.
A message from the stars. Tom was right.
I knew you liked this one.
I love this one. This one is a game wherein you have letters and they have numbers and you give them and then you math them. This was so amazing. During the top 100 games of all time, Joey and I were in the same one, and Joey tried to describe it, and it was just a glorious disaster. And then I just let him suffer.
I could have deduced that.
It was such a big mess, and I was like, I'll just let him suffer because it'll come up on my list here in a little bit. Our picks were like 80 numbers apart. So it was like 2 months later, I was like, oh yeah, that time I left you floundering, Joey. Sorry.
Oh, poor fella.
But no, everything that Tom you said about this is it's amazing. The fact that you have words that you need to make the other team guess guides the words that you're trying to use, but those random letters behind the screen, you also want to use words that give enough. Wow. If I say -3, then you know it can't be doubled.
Right, there's no double letter in the word.
How do you know that?
Because it's not an even number. The final number is not even.
Oh, snap.
But also, but there's even more than that. So, like, you'll notice here in this picture, there's green, black, and red.
I see it.
There's only one.
Well, hold on. I see it.
Okay, so there's only one red letter at most in the word. So if you figure out that K is in the word, all the other red letters, which are like X, Z, and all that stuff, you know they're out. So you can cross them off immediately, which is super helpful.
There's only one green letter in each of the 3 categories max. So once I have
to assume this game's like a bear to teach, right?
I taught it a lot at Dice Tower West, particularly. I taught it like 4 times or so, and you kind of get into a rhythm where like, okay, I know which parts are important to explain, and which parts I can just kind of a round or 2 in be like, now remember this logic part.
Yeah, it's a cooperative game, so it's not. If you're teaching it, you play the alien, and so there's more pressure on you. Not that much though. And you can listen to them talk, and if they're saying something, you can be like, well, actually, just don't forget this rule here. Okay. I did not find this hard to teach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Although you kind of have to see it. I'll say, let's say these are the letters I have, and then write some words down and say, here's the value, here's the value, here's the value. And people go, okay, I got it.
I do a Dice Tower East, not West. I misspoke. I do a reveal of the screen. I show everyone, like, here's what I'm seeing. Here's a word I would give you as a clue.
If you reveal it, then that's...
They always beat it turn 1.
These games are really short.
I'm really good at teaching this. But then I'll redeal. But like, if the people playing on the other side don't understand what to look for, I could see this being a disaster.
Sure.
Yeah. But oh my gosh, this is such a fantastic one. Clearly and easily my number 1, Message of the Stars.
Wow. All right. Well, my number 1 is one that was mentioned already, and it is The Search for Planet X. It's my number 1. I think The Search for Planet X is...
This was not on your list.
I haven't played it.
Search for Planet X is fantastic. It manages to be a deduction game, be an app-driven game, be thematic, feel mysterious, be visually engaging. It checks every box I want to check for this kind of game. If I want to play a deduction game, it's more likely than not this one, because it just brings a lot of interesting emotions and emotionality to the table. So I really, really enjoy it. It's been mentioned already, but yeah, The Search for Planet X. I have not played The Lost Species. I don't really like that theme as much.
You might like the UAP one then.
Yeah. I want to play that one. That I'm in on. But
that might be the first you play then. When we get it, we'll be like, Chris, come on.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, just to get a fresh, different perspective on it. Maybe.
Exactly.
But I do want to play something from the series.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. That's my number 1.
All right, my number 1 and 2 were really close. A Message could have been number 1.
Okay.
But my number 1, man, I don't know. And again, I love this whole letters and numbers thing. So my number 1's a crossover with Z, and it's the little game Hooky.
Yes.
I really like this game.
Wow.
I really want to... I'm glad it's going to charity and all that stuff, but I want to slap Rio Grande for making this game look like a kid's game. It
Right.
just bugs me to
doesn't-
death.
No, but I mean that is a visual disconnect. It seems right with like how thinky the game actually is.
Right.
And it really is. But I'll tell you what, I've had a good deal of crossover with people who might not like deduction games, but like word games, because this is so close to Wordle. There's another one that Allplay does that I really like called Fiction, which is like this, but I think Hooky is deeper and more involved, which was why I like that one better.
It's Fiction. You're number 17.
Fiction is 21 probably. It did not quite make the list. But man, it's just you can give any words you want, and then I'll say okay, and I'm going around the table, and it just feels good. You're like, I need to eliminate M from people's hands and this. So you just got you don't have to have like a huge vocabulary, and I believe. I'm not correct. I believe you can use proper words, proper nouns too. It's fantastic. So
Yeah.
I highly, highly recommend it. Other ones that made let's see. Mind management was close. 18. Where was that? Intent to Kill. I thought that was a good deduction game. A
That
back
one
and
would
forth
be
one.
that one would be in my like 11 through 15 or something.
Well, somebody's bringing up Jimmy E. World here. Says, wow, now Tobago disappointed.
Well, let us rip into you then for that.
Yeah, we actually discussed this. Go ahead, Tom.
Tobago is not a deduction game. It's a great
In
game.
your face, Jimmy. Goodbye.
No.
And also like 12 other people in chat.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Is there more
a
people?
lot of people have been saying it. Tobago is. It looks like deduction, but it's not, because you are deciding where the treasures are. You are saying it. You're putting things, and you're not deducing. You're forcing a solution.
Kind of like the way I play hooky. No, it is M. M is the letter. No, it's right.
Yeah.
Tom's right. Yeah, Tobago, whatever is. Yeah, you're shaping it. It's not. You're not finding the answer. You're making the answer.
And actually, that's not a bad thing. If someone says I don't like deduction games, I'll be like, you still might like Tobago.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. Can't Stop said in the chat.
Can't
Classic, right?
stop.
No, it's like stop thief.
Oh,
Can't stop that
I was
thief.
like, can't stop.
It's not.
Wait. I think you wrote. I don't see the dice, but I see you move up on the board. I'm like, it was a
7.
3 and a 4.
Okay, other ones on here. I had. Let's see, Intent to Kill. Oh, Run. I like the 2-player back and forth Run for deduction.
I almost put also from Fowers Games, Fugitive. Right. That I didn't include that one because it's a little bit, I guess, weaker on the deduction, but it is that like number-based hidden movement kind of feel. So yeah, I like Fowers Games kind of plays in this area a lot.
I think of all the ones of all these, the ones you haven't mentioned, the only one I would throw in here also is this tiny little card game called Dead Drop, which came out from like Crash Games back when Crash Games was still around. And it's a micro game. Has, 16 cards or whatever, and one has been removed. And you play this mini card game with giving information. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's just, again, it kind of feels like a Clue game, but very, very small, and you're trying to, with the way the cards are moving around, the information, figure out which card was removed.
Oh,
It's called Dead Drop.
I didn't think of this. Mike Aller says Picture Perfect. Would you count that?
No, because
No.
again, Picture Perfect. First of all, it's not deduction. It is literally you see all the stuff.
And the ones you don't see, you guess at, but that doesn't mean you deduce
You don't
them.
really, you don't really do any deduction.
You
in
don't
it.
see what other people are doing. That's right.
No, right.
Okay, that's a big difference then. Yeah.
Da Vinci Code is like the big one that none of us mentioned, and it's about to be reprinted, and that might bring it back into resurgence. Is Mystery of the Abbey.
Yeah.
Mystery of the Abbey is like, for a while, was the replacement for Clue.
Yep.
There's some silliness in it, although you can remove that and all, and that's definitely very susceptible to the Z. Do you have this in your hand? And he's like, nah. And then later on, he's like, oh, hang on, I had it.
Oops. Yeah.
See,
So what is this? Rising
you didn't say
5.
Rising
Oh,
5.
I thought that'd be on your list.
Yeah, no, it's the deduction part is certainly central, but it doesn't feel like a deduction game.
It's pretty easy to figure out.
It is also. It's like Mastermind. It's not figuring out the puzzle that's hard. It's being allowed. Like, you have to fight beasties on this planet to be allowed to solve the puzzle. So the solving isn't hard. The getting to it is hard.
I saw several people mention the Key series from Haba. That's very good. And maybe that could take the place of my kids' one without Fox. The Key is pretty solid. That you're just pulling a bunch of cards and solving the mystery as
Okay.
time goes by. But whoever finishes it with the fewest cards will win. So you don't want to pull too many cards, but you're slowly figuring out and crossing stuff off. It's very simple.
Josh says, classic Guess Who? And, I mean, that's a fun one.
Oh, sure.
And I was looking.
This wouldn't be in my top 10.
I was looking through, researching for this, and I came across a game I haven't played in like over a decade. That was Unusual Suspects.
Oh,
Paul
gosh.
Amore one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Unusual Suspects is not really...
It falls into like the Similo category of games.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
more like, kind of gut feeling rather than like
You're not really...
working things out. Yeah.
It sticks it, right? It's that. It falls into that category.
And like Chris said, there's the whole detective series. He said that earlier because a lot of people are like, where's Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective? Well, first of all, I hate it. But secondly...
Big first of all, yeah.
But even if I did like it, that is deduction. It just feels like a different category. It's in the escape room category. It really is for me. That's just something different. If someone says I like deduction games, I'm trying to figure something out, throwing a pile of newspaper clippings at them and maps and things, it's all murder mystery games, and there's a gazillion of those that you can get in the mail. I mean, I've gotten them before I played them with my kids. You are using deduction to figure things out. It's all logic. So it could be on this list. I just don't because I
don't love any of those as much as I love more of these kind of logic-based games, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Those are... Finding out information by piecing things together isn't quite the same as these games.
I mean, maybe we'll do a top 10 of those sometime.
I don't know if we have enough of that, but the whodunits kind of games,
Unfortunately, a lot of those whodunits are one-shots. They're
are.
not even on Board Game Geek.
Right.
You can just order, like some people subscribe to them. They come every month. Me
Yeah.
and the kids have done one where we were using GPS and internet trying to figure out where this
Wow.
guy went to Argentina and things like that. You know, Ignacie's Detective is like that.
Right. So one shot. So
Yeah, maybe that's it. Because they're one-shots. Do we, any of us, have a one-shot game on our list?
no, I don't.
No.
Maybe that's the out for me, is that all these games are repeatable deduction games.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I'm glad we figured it out right at the end.
I wouldn't go to Board Game Geek necessarily. I definitely pulled up their logic and deduction category.
There's
and
so much social deduction,
my word.
first of all.
There's also some really odd things on there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyhow, there you go. That is our top 10 deduction games. Let us know yours in the comments. And thumb up the people you agree with, and we'll see what rises to the top. We'll be back tomorrow morning with the news. So what's happening in the board game world? I don't even know, but I'll know tomorrow morning. Until then, I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Zee Garcia.
I'm Chris Yee.
But you already knew that. Hey folks, thanks for watching another one of our videos. If you like our videos, if you like our channel, if you would love to game with us at one of our conventions, check out Dice Tower Cruise, Dice Tower East, and Dice Tower West. Fantastic conventions where we play games with wonderful people, a humongous library, and lots of other events and stuff. Also, don't forget to check out our channel, like and subscribe. I'm Tom Vasel.